It is often argued by Christians that absolute morality exists in the universe and is provided by God. Before we can evaluate that claim, we first need to define a couple of terms. In the context of this discussion, morality is defined as behaviour that is considered good or right or reasonable or compassionate, usually in the context of other living beings, although religion likes to include thought crime in that definition. When Christians use the term absolute morality, they mean a standard of morality that is universally true and constant, regardless of the opinions of any person or group of people. There are many flaws to this claim, and today I'm going to demonstrate that such a claim is in fact self-refuting. In other words, it disproves itself because it is logically impossible. For starters, if morality is bestowed by a being, no matter how powerful, it is not objective, it is subjective to that being. But we'll overlook that contradiction. The Christian position is a simple one, and it's explained thus. Because God represents absolute perfection, everything he does is also by definition perfect. The logic is presumably that a perfect being is incapable of making imperfect decisions. But that claim falls at the first hurdle. After all, perfection is itself a subjective judgment. What do Christians mean by perfect in this context? Absolutely fair? Totally all-knowing? Of impeccable judgment? But these may often lead to contradictory courses of action. Save one person at the expense of another and it could lead to the destruction of China. Save the other person and it could lead to the annihilation of India. Which is more important? What's the more moral choice? What's the perfect choice? Is it more moral to save 1 million ordinary people or one exceptional one? Better to save a man who is already destined for heaven or one who is not? Who counts for more, smart people or dumb ones, men or women, Jews or Gentiles? But even if we accept the concept of a perfect being is possible, he could only be perfect if he had complete and perfect knowledge of everything in existence, past, present and future. For instance, I may have a perfect decision-making process in deciding which of two men should live or die, but unless I know with certainty the effects throughout the entirety of existence that a given decision will make, I can only talk about locally expedient morality. That is to say, actions that only consider the superficial implications that are consistent with my values of morality. After all, slaughtering the Canaanites to give the Jews somewhere to live may serve a greater good in the short term, but the ramifications of that Jewish homeland in 5,000 years could be the development of a nuclear state that brings about the annihilation of the planet. And that leads us to an important question. Is morality determined by a person's intentions or by the results? If you try to intervene in a two-person dispute to save the life of one person, but as a result, hundreds of thousands die, is your morality determined by the end result or your intention? Clearly, as beings who are not gifted with prescience, we can only make decisions which are locally expedient, because we have no idea of the greater ramifications. However, the whole "his ways are too mysterious to comprehend" argument presupposes God's prescience, and is used as justification for, say, the flood or allowing millions of children to die in misery. The Christian position that God is omniscient leads you inescapably to the conclusion that God created man with the total knowledge that the vast majority of us, over 100 billion to date, would not get to spend eternity with him, but would suffer whatever fate he has decreed for the damned. Ah, but no, claims the theist, because in giving us free will, God no longer knows the outcome of our choices, in which case he cannot have perfect knowledge, and cannot make perfect choices, and cannot thus be the arbiter of absolute morality, because he is no more certain of the ultimate outcome of any decision than we are. Thus, even any principle of morality that he had decided can only be based upon his imperfect vision of existence. Unlikely though it may seem, being kind to each other and being cooperative may turn out not to be in the best interests of humankind. Perhaps enslaving 99% of us would lead to a better overall outcome. Just recently, Rafael Cruz, the bigoted, hate-mongering preacher father of Senator Ted Cruz, preached against atheists, saying that our lack of belief led to moral relativism. Well, clearly, without absolute knowledge of the future, morality decided by God must also be relativistic. Let's just imagine that God can see the outcome of every possible choice. There is only one way that could itself be possible, and that's if the universe is absolutely deterministic. Determinism is the belief that everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, and including all human behaviour, follows an absolutely predictable and unalterable sequence of cause and effect, taking away free will and reducing the entire universe to nothing more than a program that started the instant of the Big Bang. And if all existence is deterministic, none of us has the choice to behave any differently than we do, any more than a rock dropped from a bridge has any choice in which direction it will fall. In fact, this perspective is absolutely consistent with old Earth creationism, which must surely hold that God was able to set in motion a chain of events 13.7 billion years long, resulting in the final 200,000 years in humankind. That level of predictable determinism makes a mockery of the idea that we were somehow given free will in the Garden of Eden, and moreover means that none of us is guilty of anything except doing precisely what God intended for each and every one of us. And if that's true, how is it moral to punish some of us and reward others? Despite Cruz's ignorant statements, even God's so-called morality is completely fluid. Although we are ordered in the Ten Commandments not to kill, there were many times thereafter when men were ordered by God to kill, or when he killed us himself. The only possible response to such apparent relativism that a Christian could offer is that God has a big picture overview, and that whilst it contradicts one of his most basic tenets, and one almost all rational beings, both theistic and atheistic, generally agree with, there are times when killing is acceptable for the greater good. This is the very definition of relative morality, which is to say that what is considered moral can change according to the context. If God has absolute morality, his personal rule set would have to say, "Thou shalt not kill unless," and then list the infinite number of greater good caveats. So to summarise, Premise 1. Absolute morality can only occur with absolute omniscience. Premise 2. Humans have free will. So either the future is unknown to God, or the future is certain to God. If God does not know the ramifications of giving man free will, nothing he does can truly be considered moral, just locally expedient, and there can be no absolute morality. If the future is clear to God, in spite of our apparent free will, then we're all just playing the roles that God set out for us, so it is he, not us, that is ultimately responsible for everything we do. Therefore God is the immoral one, not us. And if God is in fact immoral, how can he be the standard of morality? Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please take the time to rate and comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe. Thank you.